Okay, so this lesson is going to be punching out the exterior windows on the first floor, exterior windows and doors. So first things first, I'm going to take my construction lines and I'm going to measure out where all the windows are based on the drawings. So the drawings that you're going to be needing for this are drawing number A-01, drawing A-03. So we need the elevation view, and we also need the plan view that shows exactly where everything is laid out. So first things first, I'm going to start right where my front door is at, okay? So looking at this, I'm going to start out at this far edge, and based on the plan, so drawing A-03, I can see that this first window is spaced out 3 feet 6 inches. Okay, the next one is 3 feet 6 inches. Oop. See, it's 5 feet 6 inches. That'll help. So 5 feet 6 inches. 5 feet 6 inches. And then my door, to the center of my door is 12 feet 0 inches. So just looking at this, I just want to kind of check and make sure that everything is lining up where it's supposed to. And so I'm going to start by laying out my windows. So the drawing A-01 shows me that the top of the window header is 8 feet from the ground. Okay, and if I look at my window schedule, so drawing A-01, I can see that all of these windows are labeled window 1. And the dimensions for window 1 are 3 feet 3/4 inches, and the height is 5 feet 3/4 inches. So I'm going to drop this down from a height 5 feet 0.75 inches. And if I take the width and half of that, because remember I'm at the center of my window, so if I move over half of that, it's 1 feet 6.375 inches. 1 feet 6.375 inches. 1 feet 6.375 inches. 1 feet 6.375 inches. Okay, so that's going to be where all my windows are at. So I'm going to go ahead and rectangle those out right away, because I'm going to go use my push-pull tool, and I'm going to knock these holes out. So I'm going to grab my push-pull tool, wait till it says on face. So this is why those tutorials were so important. If you haven't gone through those, you're going to be a little SOL. You may even be a little lost. So you definitely should have taken the time to do that. Okay. So I've got everything laid out here for those front windows. Now I'm going to add the front door. So the dimensions for that door, so our door for the front door is labeled as door 1. The total height of that door is 6 feet 11.25 inches. Okay, so that's going to be the height of the door. And I can see that the width of the door is 3 feet 2 3/16. So half of that is 1 foot 7.09375 inches, and 1 foot 7.09375 inches. Okay, so looks good. There's also this little window that's right next to the door. I can see on the window schedule they're calling that out as window number 5. We're not 100% sure the spacing between that and the door, so I'm just going to assume that it's 2 inches. So I'm going to space this out 2 inches, and that's where my window is going to start. I'm going to lay out where my door is at, and I'm going to pull that out. Okay, I can see that this window here is, so the total height's the exact same, and the width is 1 feet 2 5/16, and 5/16 is 0.3125. So 1 foot 2.3125 inches. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and lay out where that window is going to go, and I can go ahead and punch that out as well. Okay, so everything's taking shape here for the front of my house. So now I'm going to move over to a different side of the house. So hopefully you guys get the idea. This is what we're going to do for the entire house. So what I'm going to do, rather than boring you with a really long video, I'm going to go and do the exact same thing on every single side of this first level that has a door or a window, including the garage door. And if there's anything that I think is tricky, for example, the garage door sizing, I'll probably go over that with you. But for now, I'm gonna lay out all the windows and where they're located, and you guys can do the same. And I'll add the garage doors. We can do that as a group. Okay, I've laid everything out as far as all the windows. As you can see here, as I rotate around, I've got everything, all of my windows and doors punched out. So the last thing to do is the garage door. Okay, so looking at this, the garage door sizing is actually called out on the plans. It's called out on drawing A-03 and A-01. And first thing we're going to do is lay out where the center of the door is at. Doors. So we've got the center of this door is 6 feet, 0.75 inches over. And the next door is spaced over at 9 feet, 10.5 inches. Okay, so looking on the drawings, it's calling out a garage door size of 8 feet by 7 feet. Okay, so the total height is 7 feet, and they are 8 foot wide, so 4 feet on each side. Oops, let's see, 4 feet and 4 feet. So just like before, I'm going to create a rectangle for each of these doors, and then I'm going to use the push-pull command to knock them out. And wait till it says on face, and gone. Okay, so this would be how we would go about cutting out the holes. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to make components for each of these windows. So to do this, I'm actually going to start off to the side. Reason being is if I make any mistakes, I can't talk today. If I make any mistakes when creating these components, it's easier to fix them when they're away from the actual floor structure. Okay, so one thing to note, I've been doing everything. I should make sure everything on the first floor is on the first floor layer, which I see that it wasn't. So let's make sure that that's the case. Okay, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to make my component for window number 1. Okay, so the next step is we're going to make our component. So I'm going to start with window number 1. I know that this rectangle right here is actually where window number 1 is going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to copy. I'm going to paste it off to the side. So all I did is just Control-C, Control-V there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this into our component that's going to mesh with what window number 1 looks like. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select everything here. I am going to right click, select bounding edges. So this was in your tutorials. Make component. Okay, I'm going to call this window number 1 and click create. Okay, so now I should have a component here. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go in and I'm going to double click and I'm going to edit my component, or you can click on it and then right click, edit component. Either way will get you in there. So I'm going to edit this in place. So I know that my walls have a thickness of 6 inches. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a frame for this. I'm going to use my offset tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset this, let's see here, 1 inch. Okay, so then I can just basically add a frame here. I'm going to use the push-pull tool, and I'm going to extend this out 6 inches because that is the width of my wall. So what I've done here is you can see if I am able to spin this without having it be too painful today. Basically what I've done is I've made a frame here for my window. So now I'm going to add the nice decorative finish that they have here. Basically I'm trying to make this window look exactly as it is on the plans, which is not necessarily an easy task. Okay, so I'm going to offset this again 1 inch. Okay, so that's going to be kind of my inside frame, and then I'm going to add the decorative crisscross pattern here that we have. So I'm going to put this right down the middle, and I'm going to put it right down the middle, and now I'm going to offset this. I'm going to offset these lines 1/2 of an inch. Actually, there's an easier way to do that. I'm going to use my tape measure tool. So I'm going to go over 0.5 inches. 0.5 inches. And I'm going to, rather than have these lines here, I'm going to actually make some rectangles. That'll be way easier than what I was attempting to do there. Okay, so I'm going to use my rectangle tool, and I'm going to box this out. Then I'm going to delete the lines whatever lines I don't want. Okay, so it's starting to take shape. It looks like my window. So the cool thing is, now if I go into my paint bucket tool under translucent, we have different tinting here for our window. And if we tint this, the cool thing is you can then see through it. So this is going to be my component number 1. Once I've got it how I want it, I'm going to click on this, and I'm literally going to copy. So I'm going to go Control C. Okay, so we're going to use the rotate tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my component. I'm going to Control C, Control V. So I'm going to paste it here. I want to plunk this window into these spots while I need to rotate it. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on my rotate tool. I'm going to click on a surface of it. I want the blue axes for this specific rotation. I'm going to specify where I'm starting from, and now I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Bam. Okay, so to make life easy, what I'm going to do is now copy this and paste it. So I'm going to, ooh, looks like I grabbed the wrong face here. So let's see, Control C, Control V. I'm just going to plunk it over this way because I did not like what option it was giving me to move it. Okay, so now I'm going to plunk this into place. So I'm going to click on the Move command. I'm going to click click the corner that I want. Okay, so I'm going to click the corner I want to move, and I'm going to drop it right into place. And I click on the object I want to move. Select that I want to move it. I'm going to pick my point, and I'm going to drop it into place. Same thing for this last window. So these are all window number 1s. And the cool thing is, so what happens if I decide that I've accidentally made a mistake when I was making my component? There was something that I wanted to add, etc. Here's why we do copy and paste. This is so cool. So if I double click on this, so I'm editing the actual component, say I want to change my glass tint. Notice that when I change one component, all of the components change. So that's a very nice feature, definitely, with this program. So once you change one component, they all change, assuming they're the same component. So I'm going to plunk this in for all of my window 1s, and which it looks like actually I've already done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create our window number, let's see, we'll create window number 3 next. So I'm going to go over to where I have a window number 3, and my first window number 3 appears, if I'm looking on drawing A-02, I have a whole bunch of window number 2s on the back side here. So the back side of my house and the back side of my garage. These are all window number 3s. So what I'm going to do, just like before, I'm going to use my rectangle tool. Where is it at now? And I'm going to first start by boxing out my window. And nothing wants to work for me today. It's just going to be how the day goes. Come on. There. Jeez. Okay, I'm going to select that. Control C. I'm going to plunk it out in space again. The reason I do this, it's difficult if you edit it in place. There's a good chance that if you make any mistakes on this, you might be clicking on the wall behind you, etc. It gets to be a disaster. So pull it out into space. Now I'm going to right click, select bounding edges, make component. I'm going to call this window number 3, create. Okay, now I double click it so that way I can edit it in place. So just like before, first things first, I'm going to zoom in here, attempt to zoom in today, and I'm going to offset it so I can make my window frame. So I'm going to offset it 1 inch, and then I'm going to pull that, push it out 6 inches. So now again, just like we had before, I've now created, boy, this program is really just going to drive me nuts today. So you can see, if I could pan out here, we've created basically a frame here for our window. So now that I'm editing it, I can create my pretty little frame to make it look like window number 3. So I'm going to offset this again 1 inch, and this time I'm going to be smart enough to use my offset tool, my construction line tool, when I'm building my little pretty decorative centerpiece. So I'm going to offset this 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Okay. And again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete anything that I don't want. So I'm going to delete out where these lines are crossing here. All right. Last but not least, I'm going to add my translucent glass, and ta-da, I now have window number 3. So I'm going to be plopping this into place where it belongs in the video. Okay, so I've got these 3. I've got a whole bunch of spots. So now I'm going to do just like I did before. I'm going to pause the video, and you guys hopefully captured what I did there for window number 1. So I'm going to plunk these into place and rotate them where they need to be rotated. Okay, so I've created all the windows just the way that I laid out for window number 1 and number 3. So all my windows are in on the first floor. Now I need to go ahead and I need to make my doors. When I see I have the window next to the door here, the front door, that I need to account for. So, for example, if we're going to lay out our front door, window number 1, the exact same process. I'm going to create a rectangle, and then I'm going to take that rectangle and I'm going to move it to the side when I make this, and I'm going to make my component for my front door. So again, we don't have dimensions for exactly what this door looks like, so you just have to use your best judgment. So I'm going to make it a component, select bounding edges, make component. I'm going to call this door number 1, and I'm going to start laying out. I'm going to edit my door and start to try to make it look as close as I can to, I guess, what it looks like on the plan. So I'm going to assume that this is 4 inches, and it actually looks, yeah, pretty similar. That'll work. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to lay out a couple of construction lines. So we've got this distance here is 3 feet, 1 5/8. Of course, we can't have a nice looking dimension, so I'm going to cheat a little bit so I can properly dimension this out. So all I'm doing is basically laying out exactly what this door frame looks like. Ooh, and of course I need to use my offset tool. I got to create a frame for this door just like I did previously. So I'm going to notch that out 1 inch, and I'm going to use my push-pull tool, and it's going to go out 6 inches. So let's just make, yep, so I got a nice frame going so far. Now I'm going to put in my decorative pieces here. So that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to assume we've got a frame here of, we'll say they're 0.5, 0.5. So this is exactly what I was doing for the windows, nothing new here. And I'm going to lay out my rectangles, and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to delete whatever I don't want. Let's try that again. Okay, so I'm going to add my glass, and I'm assuming the front door is made out of wood, so I'm going to go in and look for wood coloring, wood floor. We'll make it a cherry colored door. That'll work. So I'm just filling in, and the thing that's kind of good and bad is you've got to do every surface. So I'm going to have to spin this around and do the exact same thing. So every single surface has to be painted in order. The program isn't smart enough, I guess, to know exactly what you want painted, which is actually kind of a good thing, because then you don't end up having something painted that isn't supposed to be painted. I'm trying to get, might as well paint the bottom. And there, I was trying to get to the upper. Okay, so now I've officially got my front door. So I'm going to click out of here, and I can now move the door where it needs to go. So I'm going to click on my component just like we did previously. I'm going to click my edge, and notice I didn't put a door knob on here. I'm really not too concerned about hardware. You can do that if you want, I guess. So now same thing for the garage door. Same approach. You can either include windows or however you guys want to make the garage door. Just try to make it so it looks somewhat similar to what we have on the plan. Same here for the back doors. I'm going to do that and check back with you guys in a little bit. Okay, so when you're done, basically all of your windows and doors should be components, so I should be able to click on them when I'm looking at your final project and just to make sure that they're components. And notice that I went through and I added windows, I painted everything both inside and out, and I see I missed one spot. So real important that you do the inside and outside of your features to make it look realistic. Okay, so notice I did this for every single one of our windows. The inside and the outside are painted, and I just used a wood color. To be honest, you can use whatever color you want. I'm not too picky about that. I just don't want any plain white surfaces. So that's how we go about doing the exterior windows and doors. Next video we're going to be covering the interior windows or interior doors.